Find clients that will bite your hand off for your service. This is a very long and very in-depth guide on how to build lists. This is how to find untapped leads in your target market and capture their interest better than any of your competitors. This is going to be a long one, so buckle down. We're going to be here at least 45 minutes. So if you need to get a glass of water, if you need to make your place nice and comfortable, then by all means do that, because we're going to be in for a long one. This is the flow that we will be covering, and we're going to go through every single bit of it in intricate detail. So the principles are market hypothesis, omni-channel retrieval, and data-driven personalization. And we've used these principles to send 300,000 plus emails on behalf of clients to key decision makers in dozens of verticals. We've used it to create and scale a cold email sending platform to 25K a month in the first 90 days of its inception. We've found backdoors to popular databases that have allowed us to scrape 50K leads a day. And we can find leads that generate consistent 5 to 10% reply rates and above. We've been able to do this because we've spent the past 3 years honing our ability to generate lead lists, which are just high quality prospecting, which is also dependent on your ability to manipulate data. If you can manipulate data, and this is the key, if you can manipulate data, you can double or triple your cold email results. And in this document, I'm going to explain exactly how to create lists that are caked in insight and intent that generate attention better than anyone else on the market. So why do we even need to look at this in the first place? Well, cold email in and of itself breaks down due to one of 3 reasons. 1, bad deliverability. 2, bad contacts. 3, bad email copy. If you have bad email copy, then every email you send will be ignored because it will just be irrelevant. If you have bad deliverability, every email you send will be ignored because it will land in spam. It won't land in the primary inbox. And if you have bad prospects, every email you send will be ignored because you'll be contacting the wrong person about the wrong thing. We are going to tackle the last part here, but they all feed in on each other. If you have bad copy and bad contacts, 0 leads. If you have bad contacts and bounces, 0 leads. Bad copy and bounces, 0 leads. If you have any of these in and of themselves, you get less leads than normal. And if you have a problem with all 3, then yeah, you need a lot of help. These inputs in part determine the outputs of your cold email sending systems in general. The other determinants are the changes in the environment that affect the outputs indirectly. And this is where we talk about the sort by price phenomenon. So competition between the cold email sending platforms, and there's tons of them now, Lemlist, Instantly, Smartlead, Snov, Mailshake, et al. They have all created what's called a red ocean environment in the cold email space. Now, what does this mean? Everybody's had to stay competitive, and in order to do so, these tools are fighting to develop infrastructure that will allow their users to send the maximum number of cold emails at the cheapest price. That is what the market wants. That is what everybody is trying to build. This competition spawned a disruptive feature which is called inbox rotation. So Google and Outlook tend to block inboxes that send an unrealistic amount of emails. Inbox rotation in and of itself allows you to spread the emails you send across multiple inboxes so that you can scale cold email campaigns without encountering deliverability issues. So the more inboxes you have, the more people you can actively reach out to in general. Before, you could only send about 50 emails a day from one cold email secondary inbox. Now you can add unlimited, which means you can send 10,000 plus cold emails per day. This is why your inbox is a shambles. If you're receiving cold emails at an alarming rate, what do you think your prospects are dealing with? Your target market now receives more cold email than they ever did before. Everybody is squatting in your prospects inbox, which makes it harder for your emails to stand out. Attention in general is harder to capture, which makes lead generation harder now than it ever has been. It's no longer the days of 2020 when you can use one inbox and generate a 4% meeting booked rate. Those days are long gone. However, the cold email sending tools themselves are not the only tools that have evolved. There's no-code tools which now make it possible for marketers to overcome the attention problem by manipulating data like actual developers, and we'll go into that in a second. The ability to feed learning material to large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Anthropic, etc. has made it easier to create specific messages for individual people at scale. So here's the truth. If you can send the right message to the right people at scale, you'll generate interest that far exceeds anything that you've imagined. But most people, unfortunately, don't know how to figure out the right people portion of this equation. So they can never outrun the bear. They can never do more than what the market is doing in general. So other people end up taking the hot leads in their market, leaving them with nothing to show from their campaigns. So my goal in this document is to help you find the right people at scale so that you can craft cold email campaigns that generate interest quicker and better than anything that you've tried. So let's go in with principle number 1, which is market hypothesis, which is right up here where we're dealing with the ideal client profile. So we're going to get into lookalike companies, obscure manual lists, intent-based data, secondary platforms. We're going to get into that later. But before we do any of that, we need to highlight who we are reaching out to. And that is what the ideal client profile is about to deal with. So here's a quick thought exercise. Imagine you do lead generation and you have 2 new clients. Client A is a business owner that sells marketing funnels to coaches. Client B is also a business owner that sells marketing funnels to coaches. They spent the past 3 years working for a large agency that provided the same funnels but to software companies. And now they're going out into the world as a solopreneur trying to do the same but with coaches. Again, client B follows the exact same path as client A. Both individuals are looking for product market fit. They want their first cold email campaign to be a real smash hit. So they are collecting information on their ideal client profile. Now, when asked to explain who they target, these are the answers that they came up with. So question number 1, what are the characteristics of your ideal client? Client A says coaching companies in the UK and US. That's about it. Client B says English native personalities that have a low, mid or high ticket program in the dating, business, finance, health or trading niches. They preferably have a community and or email opt-ins to funnel people to their offer. They use Circle, School, Thinkific or Kajabi to host their education. They have active Facebook and YouTube ads and they post regularly on Twitter. They also host their web pages on ClickFunnels. What does your ideal client struggle with? Client A, getting sales calls from their ads. Client B has noticed that their ideal client struggles with creating ads that convert at a decent return on ad spend, posting on social media without any ability to track its effectiveness, not having a consistent follow-up process in place, and turning conversations into sales calls in general. So what's the biggest goal? Client A says getting more revenue. Client B says to have a working marketing system that generates leads consistently enough for them to double down on developing the content in their learning platforms. What benefits of your service allow your ideal client to achieve their biggest goal? They get a funnel that gives them leads and stops them from relying on content. They can attribute marketing activities to money through the door. They can track which setters and closers generate the most revenue. You get the point, right? You get the point by now. It's pretty obvious that client B is more likely to have a better performing campaign because obviously they know more. But given the information that they have provided, the actual intricacies of all of this information, why is that the case? Client B has more at-bats. They have a more solid understanding of their niche and service, which means they have more marketing angles to use when they start doing cold outreach. They can be more specific, which gives them more opportunities to personalize their messaging and book more calls. Client B therefore has more possible problems to solve than client A. All good products and services solve problems. All of them. Problems create pain, and value is created when pain is alleviated. So the sole purpose of your business is to find people with pain and provide a solution for that pain in return for cash. You exist to bridge the gap between state 1 and state 2, which is a very, very simple explanation of someone with problem, someone without problem. So state 1 describes your target market before they've had their problem solved. They're broke, they're stressed, they're lonely, they're non-compliant, whatever it may be. State 2 is the state of the market after they've solved their problems. They have excess cash, they're stress-free, they have freedom, they're connected, they're compliant, they're happy, they're living longer. Whatever the solution or the goal is, they have achieved it. The better you know your target market state 1, the more opportunities you have to take them to state 2. The purpose of cold outreach is therefore to find all of the people in state 1 that you can service with your offer. And for that, you need to identify in extreme clarity who your ideal client profile is. So what are ideal client profiles? What is an ICP? It's a hypothetical group of decision makers in desperate need of getting out of poverty, trouble, stress, pain, or any other negative situation. The sole purpose of identifying an ICP is to identify the prospects that are most desperate for your solution to their problems. It's all about their problems. So, for example, if you help people launch their Shopify product listings on Amazon, Your ICP consists of Shopify sellers that aren't making enough sales, that are experiencing low conversion rates since iOS 14, and are not making enough money through their email partners. If you help freelancers turn their services into fully functional businesses, then your ICP consists of 18 to 35-year-olds on Upwork that get a couple of projects a month, that don't know how to create an offer, and are struggling to escape the price war that the Upwork platform puts them in. So you can see how each individual person has an individual set of problems, and some problems speak more to others. So if you can have an understanding of what all of those problems are, then you can test which problem has the most resonance. And we're going to get into that later. So think of it this way. You're a geologist looking for oil in the ground. The only guide you have is the surface that you want to dig on. That surface is the ICP itself. You can't see what's going on underground where the oil is. You only have the shape and the structure of the surface to guide you. And for this reason, all ICPs are hypotheses. They're all best guesses. They evolve over time as new information hits you. If you have an intimate understanding of the people you want to target, then you can develop marketing strategies to find these people and get them interested in a conversation. Those conversations turns into sales calls where more information can be gathered. And that information will help you develop your ICP, because over time, you get a better understanding of the groups of people who are most hungry for your service, because it's just mode averages. If you get on 20 sales calls and you are the freelancer that turns their service into fully functional businesses, and when you ask them what is the biggest problem that's going on with your business, they say, we don't know how to create an offer. 15 out of the 20 say they don't know how to create an offer. Then you know almost for a fact with your field research that this is what you need to focus on. And what ends up happening is those people become, the 15 out of 20 become your primary target. Everything is shaped around solving the problems that they've spoken about. So below is a list of demographic questions you need to answer to discover who's in your ICP. And you're going to have this linked below, and this is going to be on the actual page as well. So I'm just going to fly through these. So it's the industries, where they reside, company headquarters, the company headcount, the job titles, what function do they work in? Are they, head of marketing, head of sales, head of operations, head of finance? Are they head of HR, whatever it may be? Seniority, are they on the C-suite? Are they presidents, VPs, directors, managers? Are they associates? Are they assistants? If we're to categorize a company they work in using keywords, which are phrases and verbiage that identifies what the company does, then what keywords would we use? For example, Clavier Partner or Abandoned Car and opt-ins would be on an e-com email marketing agency's website as they're explaining their offer. If their business uses particular technologies to operate, what technologies do they use? These are called technographics, and they can be used to identify businesses. Those are demographics. Now we need to talk about the psychographics, which are the psychological characteristics of the people in the groups that you've identified. And we only need to understand 4 things. What do they do? I.e., what job are they trying to do? What about what they do sucks? What are their problems? What aspect of your offer helps them do things better than they currently do them themselves? The vehicle to get to state 2. And what position will they be in once they've gotten to the end of their problem, once they've reached state 2? And for that, you need questions like, what are the jobs that they're trying to get done? What are they targeted on? What keeps them up at night, eyes open, wide, glaring at the ceiling? What position will they be in once they've solved their problems? What individual features of your offer allow them to bridge the gap? The idea here is to develop specificity. You'll have a bank of information which forms a working idea of the target market that you are actually going after. And with these questions answered, you'll have a great starting point. If you can answer all of the questions. What if you have a bunch of gaps in your knowledge? What do you do when you don't know anything? And this is a very common thing, especially with a lot of people who sell biz ops. They tend to have the first part of their coaching program is, this is how you develop an ideal client profile. You need to answer these 50 questions, but you may not have the answer to all 50 of these questions. So I get it a lot. It's hard to answer the questions, especially if you're working with a new niche. Unfortunately, the difference between those who make the best products and steal the lion's share of the market and those who don't is an intricate understanding of this. So there's no way around it. You literally have to understand how to get this. There's a direct correlation between those who really know their target and how well their outreach actually does. Because the key here is attention, and attention comes from specificity. Attention is how Attention is the reward from saying the right thing to the right people at scale. You get a lot of attention on your offer. If you want to be great, you literally have to have lived in your target market's shoes. So if you don't have the answers to the questions and you're doubting your ability to find information, these are two solutions that can help you answer the questions. Number one, Google OSINT. Number two, the 4 pillars of prompting. So we're going to get into both of these now. OSINT equals open source intelligence. It's the process of using Google's Boolean search operators to create highly specific searches to find hidden information in the depths of the internet. Put it this way, Google knows literally everything. If you're looking for a post, a comment, an article, whatever it may be, chances are you're going to find the information more easily if you take a step back and you use a well-defined Google search, as opposed to going back on the website and using the website's own search functions. This is literally a thing. If you are looking for something on, for example, Instagram or LinkedIn that you can't find through the LinkedIn search, do the search in Google and use these Boolean operators that I'm about to show you, because it's easier to find it on Google than it is to find it on the platform itself most times. Google OSINT can help you broaden your horizons on any topic that's been spoken about on the internet, and for this reason, it's amazing for you to help understand and clarify who your ideal client profile is. So some common parameters, I'm going to fly through these as well, are speech marks, which is what you want to wrap around, which will only find direct matches. There's and. You want to put this between any set of phrases, and Google will return all searches with both of them together. There's or, which is one or the other. Not, which excludes. Cite : which narrows a search to all instances where the search is true for pages on a particular link. So, and the best thing about this as well is that it's the specific slug on the link as well. Not the slug, the string. So LinkedIn.com, this searches the whole of LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com/in searches individual people. LinkedIn.com/posts searches posts. So you can see how that can be used in many different ways. Brackets groups search strings and prioritizes them. Before and after is basically your date parameters inside of Google. And then file type returns all Google searches with an attached file. Honestly, the most powerful one is probably cite. Cite and speech marks are the most powerful ones, and those are the ones that are going to give you the best understanding of exactly what you would need, because these OSINT parameters that you'd put into Google to help you clarify questions from the ideal client profile, whether it be the psychographics or the demographics, you can get from particular websites, and Google can help you find those posts better than the website search functions themselves. And if you were to click into any of these, or if you were to just highlight all of these and see what comes up, you'll see how specific these are. So how does it apply to market research? What you want to do is you want to use those operators above to find Reddit posts, LinkedIn articles, PDFs, scholarly articles, Quora answers, and YouTube videos. Take the information you find and use it to answer the ICP questions that we outlined above, the demographic and the psychographic questions. Search high and wide, use the different keyword combinations, use a specific directory in your site Boolean, like I just said, posts instead of just LinkedIn.com, because these give you a base, and that helps you form the hypothesis in better clarity, way quicker than it would have been if you just guessed the individual parts that were missing from your understanding. So that's OSINT. What are the 4 pillars of prompting? This is basically just about how to use GPT in order to get all of this information. One thing you need to know about GPT is it's a huge know-it-all. It's the biggest generalist you'll ever meet. The understanding that GPT has on most subjects makes it incredibly profound at recalling basic facts and doing simple logic. But it is horribly useless still to this day in most contexts, unless you use it to its fullest extent by leveraging exactly how to use it. And 4 tactics can help you unlock its full potential. 1, system messages. 2, retrieval augmented generation. 3, short prompting. 4, show you're working. So let's get into the rest of it. So system messages, basically ChatGPT's messages, according to the API, come from 3 different roles, and the roles are system, user, and assistant. User is basically the question that you are asking. It's, write this blog post. The assistant role is the answer to the question posed by the user, which is rarely ever used unless you want GPT to have a conversation with itself. So you might say in speech marks, write this blog post, and then in the next set of speech marks, you have a blog post, and then in the next set of speech marks, it's make this blog post more precise. And then if you press enter, it will take the blog post that has been fed to it by the assistant and it will make it more precise. So that's kind of how it works. Assistant kind of only comes into play when you click enter a couple of times as well, if we're just talking about the normal GPT playground or whatever. The system role, however, is the instructor. It's the first message usually, and it contains things like, you are blank, your task is to blank. For example, you're a top fighter pilot in the Vietnam War. Your task is to provide a flight path through London with bomb squads at the following coordinates. The coordinates will follow in the next message. Please confirm you understand the task. That, as an example, is a system message that you can use to get very specific about the context at which you want GPT to provide the answers that you're looking for. So asking GPT a question without giving instructions as to how to answer it can affect the quality of your output. But if you have a system message in your prompts, you'll usually fare way better. As far as prompting goes, this is the lowest hanging fruit for improved prompting, and I'll give you a couple of system prompts in order to make some of the ICP questions, etc., easier to understand. Retrieval augmented generation. All right, so this is what you do when you feed PDFs and extra information into ChatGPT. This is feeding information into large language models. GPT will take the information and spit back out more specific answers to your prompts, and any supported file type can be imported, from pictures to spreadsheets, Word docs, PDFs, and even music. The key is to feed information to GPT that is original to yourself, and this is what's really, really important. Any intellectual property, i.e. sales assets, internal trainings, transcriptions of YouTube videos that you have made for yourself to, you know, just as normal content, which is talking about a specific thing. Any intellectual property that you have on the system can be templated, turned into a document and fed into GPT so that it can speak on your behalf. And this is overwhelmingly powerful, and we're going to return to it in a second. Short prompting is basically just giving it examples. It just describes what happens when you give GPT a layout to follow for the answer that you want. One shot means one example. Few shot means multiple examples. And this just puts GPT in some nice guidelines, which allows it to give you things that you don't need to edit too much about. And then show you're working is something that you can put at the end of your prompts, which allows you to see how GPT worked out the answer, which you can use to basically check the derivation. You want to fact check the responses sometimes and get it to regenerate it if it's made any logical mistakes, which happens a lot with code. But in the when it comes to, you know, showing your reasoning, it basically helps you explain the scripts that it uses. So with those tactics in mind, let's say you're making an ICP from scratch. Here's how to use everything that we've just spoken about to create your ICP hypothesis. Number one, take the learnings in your head, answer the ICP questions above, supplement your answers using OSINT, stick your answers into a Google Doc, download the doc as a PDF, and create a prompt with this system message. You are the top ranked marketing director at the biggest blank industry business in the world. Your task is to create an ideal client profile for the lead generation team to begin targeting for our offer. Attaches what we currently know, including details about our offer and the gaps we filled about the ideal client profile. We need to supplement this current knowledge with more information. Please confirm you understand the task. Feed the downloaded doc into ChatGPT, put this prompt in, press enter, and then just start firing off questions. What is the number one most important thing my ICP wants to accomplish? What's the day in the life? Top 3 issues. What do my ICP get the most frustrated by? What aspects of my ICP's work do they wish were easier, quicker, or more efficient, or cheaper, if that's part of your thing as well? Which individual parts of my offer can deliver these benefits? And with this, continue to supplement the document you have with more detail and then flesh out the information. Just pick GPT's brain. This information will go inside what's called a creative brief, which is a document with all of your ICP answers in it, which can be referenced in the future. This is the very first version, and this is the hypothesis, and you now need to take that into the world and validate that. And the only way to do that is to talk to the ICP in person and verify the assumptions during discovery calls, which means you have to get them on the phone. And you do this, you get people on the phone with a good angle. If you take nothing from this, take this. The angle is king. Getting your ICP on the phone is the sole purpose of lead generation in general. Cold email lead generation is just to get people on the phone. We entice our target market with things that grab their attention, and the carrots we dangle in front of our target market are the marketing angles we use to contact them. So, marketing angles basically just define the approach we take to the campaigns. Offering lead magnets, sending over actionable case studies, claiming to alleviate their biggest pains. These are all marketing angles, and they're the carrots that we choose to dangle in front of our target market. And the easiest way to think about them is to think about them in this format: selling promise lead magnet to ICP who's looking for ABC so that they can XYZ. It's your core product, your core service, your lead magnet, or your mechanism, whether it be selling cold email, selling Facebook ads, selling video production, selling, demo videos, case studies, a bunch of other things, however way you want to phrase it, to ICP, which is your target market, which we've just identified, who are looking to blank, i.e. looking to get a certain job done, which is a task that's given them problems such that when it's solved, it will give them a particular benefit so that they can blank. And the blank is the implication of that benefit or the benefit in and of themselves. And this whole sheet, this whole document is going to have a bunch of angles thrown at you. So you're going to understand exactly how to phrase them for yourself anyways. So developing angles is how you naturally test hypotheses. That big creative brief that you have, turning those into angles is actually how you create cold email campaigns that you can send out into the market and test. Some will come naturally, e.g. asking people straight up if they want a commission-only salesperson. Others will be less intuitive, but luckily GPT can help you get started. Use these 3 prompts to create marketing angles based on your ICP. You are a master SDR that works in a huge sales organization. You primarily use a combination of sales enablement tools and sales databases to do prospecting for huge companies. Your task is to generate marketing angles, which will enable you to generate the largest number of leads. Please confirm you understand the task, which is the first message. Message number 2, here's a breakdown of the company that you're going to do a cold outreach for, which is your ICP PDF, your creative brief. Your key method of driving results is this. With this in mind, please outline 5 possible angles. For example, this: communications directors at e-commerce companies in the alcohol space with 50 plus employees looking for ABCs so that they can achieve XYZ. And then number 3, create an Apollo.io search for these 5 angles so that we can find the people that we can hit with these messages. We'll go into more detail on Apollo.io in a second. The idea is you're going to get a list of summarized searches that can be performed in any big leads database. And this alone is all the ammo you need to get started with finding your ICP online and building the lead list. So if we take stock of where we are, let's just have a look. Number 1, the hypothesis, complete. It's all done. You have all the ammo you need to create a list of people that make up everyone in your ICP. You've identified the industries, businesses, job roles, and all the parties involved. You have everybody. You have an idea of who you're reaching out to. You now need to find the contact information, the emails and the phone numbers of the people you want to reach out to. How do you do that? Omni-channel retrieval. So we've dealt with this. We now need to deal with this. And this is where we talk about how to get certain leads. Before we do that, let's zoom out. If you go into your inbox and you check your spam folder, just have a look at the cold emails that I received and give me your first impression. They stink, don't they? So these are a few that I've received in the past couple of weeks. I've got people in here who are pitching me in the subject line, asking me about golf and warehouse space, even though I don't sell or keep physical products. I've even got people spelling my name wrong in an attempt to get my attention. Look at this rubbish. Look at this right here. Without even clicking on these emails, I already know I'm not interested. I just know. The reason why we're diving into the spam folder is to show you what not to do with your cold emails. And this is called inversion. So many things can be solved if we address them backwards. And instead of asking how to make money, sometimes you want to ask yourself how to lose as much money as humanly possible and just do the opposite. Instead of asking how to create an amazing cold email, ask how to make the worst cold email possible, then flip the polarity of your answers and you'll get everything that you would need. It's easier to not be a complete moron than it is to be 200 IQ all the time. Straight up. So let's invert the emails. Those emails were awful because they're completely irrelevant, they ask for too much, and they don't present anything of use. So, if we make an email extremely relevant, make a relatively small ask in the email, and present something of use, then we have a winning formula for cold email. So if we zoom all the way back in and talk about what we've just spoken about, we've outlined the ICP and the marketing angles that we want to hit them with. This gives us the best chance of finding a relevant message for the individuals who can use what we have to offer. We now need to acquire the contact information, and this is done primarily through utilizing primary lead databases. This right here. So think of a ZoomInfo, Cognism, Apollo, Seamless, all of these drop contact, all of these really big databases are a collective pool of people data, which is, names, contact info, job titles, etc., attached to company data, which are the industries, company websites, the headcounts, how long they've been in business, the funding amounts, all of that good stuff. Throughout this document, I'm going to use Apollo as a primary lead database, but this can go for ZoomInfo, Cognism, or any others that you decide to use. This primary lead database can be swapped out for about 4 or 5 different examples. As of 2024, Apollo has over 276 million people in their database, and they get this information by scraping and sorting mostly LinkedIn Sales Navigator data and compiling it with job board information by crawling news feeds and other reliable sources. It's just an amalgamation of data which is used in order to get a list of people and their whereabouts. They have a ton of filters like job titles and all of the other things that we've spoken about and much more. So if you want to find leads, you come here because you basically have everything you need. But do you? So there's a problem with using a single database for all of your data solutions, and it's called the law of the instrument, or better known as man with a hammer syndrome. It's, for every hammer, every problem looks like a nail. It's a psychological tendency to stick with the thing that you know. It's an over-reliance on your existing pool of knowledge when faced with a problem. To a man with a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, goes the saying. If you have one single source of data and the question is data, the answer is always Apollo. Now, I've pulled millions of people from Apollo, just in general. I've used it for over 3 years. Here's a couple of problems that I've personally dealt with when it comes to using Apollo. It finds this information predominantly from LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So what if your target market isn't really on LinkedIn? For example, podcasters. For example, some e-commerce companies as well don't really have massive LinkedIn. They don't really have a lot of exposure on LinkedIn. So what happens when the decision makers you want to reach out to live on platforms that Apollo hasn't scraped? That's 1. 2, Apollo's keyword filters create a lot of crossover between industries. If you type in rewards, for example, you'll find SaaS loyalty programs, but you'll also find employee reward schemes. So how do you search for your target market en masse without getting false positives? And number 3, the tagging on the industries isn't really the best. So the industries aren't really ascertained by the content on the company's webpage, but instead on the industry noted by the company page owner in LinkedIn, for the most part. Sometimes it's egregious and it's fixed by Apollo, but sometimes it is just what people decide to put in LinkedIn is what is shown on Apollo. So people not often note their company's industry as their target market's industry. So if I'm a marketing agency that works in software, then my industry sometimes comes up as software, even though I'm a marketing agency. So what happens when we want to find companies by industry, but we keep running into false positives? These errors aren't siloed to Apollo. There are similar issues with most primary databases. So the solution to the law of the instrument really is to obviously just find more instruments. So we need secondary sources of information. Now, understanding where your target market resides is the key to finding untapped leads, because if you can find a more filtered pool of data, you can circumvent the natural blind spots of the primary databases. So I'm going to map out some of these filtered pools, but before I do, there's one key concept that you need to understand, which is rich data. So here's a concept that you'll learn if you ever dive into automation. Not all data is good data. Some data is categorically useless. When you create automations, for example, in Zapier, the information that you want sometimes comes over with a lot of baggage. If, for example, I want to forward an email reply to a Slack channel, it's just, one action. New email, reply, post in Slack channel. If I want to do that, when I pull the email, I get the thumbnail. What am I doing with the thumbnail? There is nothing for me to do with the thumbnail. And I get it anyways because it comes with the data from the automation. So I call this bland data. This is data that doesn't go anywhere. If you find bland data when you're building your lead lists, etc., you won't be able to make the inferences that you need to make, and you won't be able to find your ICP's contact information. So what you need is rich data instead. Rich data describes data points that are connected to larger pools of information. They contain context that can be expanded upon, whether they be spreadsheet row IDs or project management task IDs, whatever it may be. Any spreadsheet row that you pull from a database, for example, has information in it that can be stored in all of the columns on that row. So if I have a spreadsheet which has company URL, and after the company URL, I have the name of the company, the Instagram URL, the Instagram handle, their last post, their last tweet, their last LinkedIn post, their LinkedIn profile URL. Let's say it's an e-commerce company. I have their average order value. I have all of this stuff. If I pull that one row, the ID of that row, then I get all of that information with me. And that is what's called rich data. Now, that whole concept, when it comes to building lists, the richest data, as far as that's concerned, are URLs, just in general. So social media profiles, Clutch G2 profiles, school member profiles, Trustpilot pages. These are all rich because they come pre-packaged with insight that you can use to add extra content to your lists. If you can get to a URL, you can get to all the information you desire. And it's also how you get business emails out of primary databases. Because, for example, non-business emails, which we'll call B2C emails, they're formatted as, jack@gmail.com, adam@yahoo.com, adam@bing.com. Business emails are formatted as, adamsandler@company.com, j.l@company.com. So when looking for business owners to email, we look for business emails because it's possible to find business emails if we can find the domain, the URL of those emails. So most primary databases have a filter in them called companies, and you can include a list of companies' websites to filter your search by. So if you have that list, then you can find all of the people that work at that company, and it will be a very filtered list. It will be very specific because you pulled it from somewhere where only that thing resides. Apollo will cross-reference the URLs you provide with them in that box with the contact information connected to them, which means if you can find the domain, you can find the email. So find the URLs and push them through popular databases to get your leads. If you can get to a URL, you can get all the information you desire. Now, this here is a non-exhaustive list of rich data, which we're going to basically speed through because I go very in depth on how to use all of this information. So I'm going to cover the ones and what is necessary, and then I'm going to move pretty quickly past that. So below are the main sources of rich data that you can use to find the URLs. And if you don't want specifics and you just want to know where to look, this is the summarized breakdown. So secondary data platforms. If you want e-commerce company data, store leads, mostly store leads. Charm is a bit more expensive, but doesn't really have as much information as store leads. B2B service businesses, Clutch, also comes with reviews and client testimonials. Investors and startups, schools as well, Crunchbase. VC databases for other funded startups, i.e. Y Combinator and AngelList. School for info product and coaching companies. Playboard for streamers, YouTubers and podcasters. TweetScraper for Twitter influencers. Outscraper for local business. If you want intent-based data, other than the numerous enterprise platforms out there, Indeed and LinkedIn are the ones you can use for free, which will allow you to see job posts and hiring managers that you can reach out to if the thing that you are selling, a hiring manager would be interested in, or the presence of a hiring manager hiring for a particular role indicates that there is a need for something that you are currently selling. For example, if you sell cold email lead generation or you sell cold calling, like call centers, whatever it may be, if you have a list of people who are, if you search SDR on linkedin.com/jobs, and you have, 500 companies looking for an SDR that match your criteria, you can scrape all of those, scrape the hiring managers, and then find the individuals, find the companies and say, hey, so that you are hiring for an SDR, we can help you with our call center services in the meantime. Then there's obscure and manual lists, whether it be review platforms like G2, Capterra for company reviews, companies that maybe have certain specific things told about them that you can fix if you find those words. Blogs and listicles, and Wikipedia for themed lists. And then there's lookalike company data, which is ocean.io. And freelancers can get you basically all of the above. So I'm going to speed through the rest of this because it covers most of the stuff that we've spoken about. And it just covers what you would need to do, but I'm mostly going to focus on the angles. So if your angle is selling AI audience optimization tests to e-com brands that use Hyros, who are looking to improve their ROAS so that they can double their store's growth, you'd use store leads, because store leads comes with this information. Everything that you would need is inside of here, especially in this advanced tab. You can go into here and find out the technographics, the latest uploaded products, estimated monthly sales, and a bunch of other things. So if someone has Hyros on their platform, you can find that inside of store leads. Clutch. If your angle is selling copywriting services to established full stack branding agencies that are looking for market message resonation so that they can double in size through ads and funnels in the future, then you would go into Clutch, because you have branding agencies and there's a ton of them, absolute metric ton of them. So you can go through here and you can get all the information from there. Crunchbase is for startup related angles. So if you're selling sponsored ad placements, for example, on finance marketplaces to pre-seed tech startups who are looking to increase their inbound revenue so that they can scale their development team, this is what you would be looking for. And you can see we're following the selling offer to ICP who are looking to X so that they can Y. That is the one sentence that you can give to anybody that's going to help you with building any lead list or whatever it may be. Or for yourself, if you're building your own lists, and understand, okay, this is exactly what I'm doing. This is the point of my clicking around on these platforms. So that's Crunchbase. Then you've got VC funded databases like Y Combinator and AngelList. So if you're selling last minute TV placements to recently funded startups with 5+ people in the marketing team who are looking for remnant buys so that they can gain national reach with their products and services and drive down their CPAs through sheer familiarity, it's a very complex one. That would be that would be the angle in this situation. And you can go Y Combinator or AngelList in order to find this. I'm not pulling this from nowhere, by the way. We've worked with a client in the past who basically did exactly this. So, and then you have school. And if your angle is selling, commission only setters to info product owners who have free or paid programs, who are looking for more sales calls so that they can get more people to join their high ticket accelerator, you would go through school. And you'd usually go into school community, because school community is the main community that everybody kind of is forwarded to when they first join school. It's the Sam Ovens community. So you can find the members, and those members sometimes have info products, and you can find them through there. Playboard is YouTubers, influencers, podcasters, etc. So if you're selling clip editing and distribution to YouTube live streamers with 10K plus followers who are looking to develop a presence on TikTok so that they can increase their subscriber count, here's where you would do it. And with Playboard, just because a lot of this information from all of these other platforms is kind of just readily available, when you go through Playboard, you get YouTube URLs, and in order to get the contact information, you don't stick a URL into Apollo to find the information. You instead have to go in and go past these captures, because these captures will basically reveal the email, which you would then have to copy and paste. So it's a manual job, or it can be a manual job, or you can get someone on Upwork to do the data entry legwork. You can build a bot using an RPA tool like RoboMotion, which is going to be very hard for you, but if you do it once, then you've basically got a playbook to do it forever. Or you can get someone who can build you a bot that can go through recaptures, which is probably the best option. It's just differing amounts of leverage. Tweet Scraper is for Twitter scraping. Now, it may be Tweet Scraper now, it may be something else in the future. These platforms get clamped down on pretty fast. But as of recording, it's Tweet Scraper. So if you're selling fine-tuned AI blog writing bots to ghostwriters that follow Hype Fury and Tweet Hunter, who are looking to increase their speed of content creation so that they can service more clients, you would use Tweet Scraper. And another note on these angles, they don't have to be as complex as this. I've kind of overemphasized them. It could literally just be selling fine-tuned AI bots to ghostwriters who are looking to increase their speed of content creation so that they can service more clients. Now, Tweet Scraper is built off of scraping people who follow people. So that's not completely far-fetched. A lot of these can just sound over the top. But you have everything that you would need by looking at all of this information to understand exactly what is what. So Outscraper, local business, selling SEO and web design services to car rental companies who are looking for more foot traffic so that they can compete with Turo and Zipcar on price in their current location. That is a phenomenal angle. That would be, you would use Outscraper in order to find this information. And it gives you the website URLs, and putting these through primary databases tends to have a low match rate for emails, but a pretty high match rate for phones. So if you're calling people, you're not just doing cold email, you're cold calling, this is exactly where you would find it, because these are just Google Maps scrapers, and they all come with phone numbers. All right. So a quick caveat to all of that information: when you can't access the data, you need to grab the information from the HTML on the page itself. If there's no direct download button, you need to scrape it. Web scrapers are simply just bots that extract data from websites. So here's kind of the 80-20 understanding of scraping just in general. So on the internet, everything has a structure. All web pages have a hidden pattern to them. They may be organized in a list or a table. Your timeline on Twitter is a list. Your Instagram feed is a list. Directories like clutch.co and Y Combinator are tables. So this list, tweet 1, tweet 2, tweet 3, tweet 4, this is called an infinite scroll, and it's a type of list. There's no page 2 button because when you continue to scroll, more items load. So there's infinite scroll, and then there's click pagination, and then sometimes there's 2. So clutch.co is a table with click pagination, which means that there's page 1 all the way to page 50, and you click a next button and it shows everything on that page. So where you have a lot of pages which are, show 5, show 10, show 25, show 50, and then page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be, whether it be a directory or social media profile, different types of websites, all of those things are click pagination. Now, what it's doing is the page is just loading all of the HTML for the specified amount of items that you've asked for, whether it be 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, however many you wanted to show, and then it's clicking next page to get the next lot, and then the next lot, and then the next lot. Some more sophisticated platforms like LinkedIn have both of them embedded. So LinkedIn will show you about 50 or 100 LinkedIn profiles and then have a page 1 to 50 at the bottom. But only the first 25 or 50 will load. So it'll go, 25, you scroll more, it loads the next 25, scroll more, loads the next 25, scroll more, loads the last 25, then you click the next page. But that is just the 80-20 of how pages work. The appearance of a web page is the front end. It's the clickable, user-friendly expression of the data. So I can go in and I can press like and comment and retweet on any of these and do all of this good stuff. That is the front end. Behind the scenes, the data is structured in either a hierarchy, which is just strings and lines of code with loads of indentations saying object array, things underneath it, more of things underneath it, etc., just in a hierarchy, or a database, which is a spreadsheet style table. These are what's called the back end. So when you scrape a web page, you steal the front end and you translate that into your own back end. So when I scrape this clutch search, I get it's a click pagination database. So I'll get all of the names and all of the service focus, as you can see here, all the price of the scope, the price per hour, the company size, the website link, their latest testimonial, their description, which would be inside the page, all of this stuff. I can have that lined up in a database if I scrape it using particular scrapers. So luckily, scraping tech has become so sophisticated, and this is what I spoke about before, where marketers can now work like developers. Scraping tech has become so sophisticated that you don't need to take a starter course on Selenium or Beautiful Soup in order to leverage it. I'm going to give you 3 ways to scrape information. First, which is probably the easiest, is Instant Data Scraper, which is a Chrome extension scraper designed to pull data from a specific HTML structure. So you oftentimes need multiple types of scraper for even different pages on the same website. So more scrapers equals more time spent building scrapers, which is more time wasted and less efficiency. Instant Data Scraper basically finds the table on the page and allows you to scrape the information that's provided. So there's a, try another table button here, which just looks for whatever HTML structure it can find and then turns it into this database that I've just said. So you got a logo here, title here, company, the little quote down here, they are amazing in all aspects, all of that stuff. They've got that there too. All you need to do is just locate the table, find the next button, and then press go. It takes 3 clicks to scrape most basic databases because it just reads the page and comes up with the structure. So with the click of a button, it will scrape it and then it will output into an XLSX file, which is just a Excel file, or a CSV file, which is a Google Sheets, just a single page file. So that's Instant Data Scraper. Now, Bardeen is another Chrome extension which utilizes web scraping as well as automation. It's more sophisticated because it supports building your own scraper, and this is probably the most obvious need for you to use it. So if you look at yell.com, this scraper here, you can build a scraper for yell.com using Bardeen, but you can't do it with Instant Data Scraper, and I'm going to show you why. So if you see number one, clicking number one gives me the name of the company, which you can see, and the link of the title, which gives me what's down here in number two. This call button right here extends the card and opens up the phone number. So clicking on call and then selecting click, which is over here, reveals extra information that I can then scrape, which gives me the phone number. So the direct contact information, which is normally hidden, which Instant Data Scraper can't pick up, Bardeen can find. So when you're building the scraper, you click on here and it will pop up here. You would click here again because the link is also associated with it, and it will pop up here. You click the email button and it will open up the email. You click the call button and then you click on more options, click, and it will open up this phone number, and this phone number is what you can use, and it will add the phone number column down here, and it will now just scrape every single page where that call button is there, and now you have the phone numbers. So any page that you want to scrape can be scraped in this fashion. There's way more to the platform, like deep scrapers and time-based scrapers, multi-chain automations, but that's kind of outside of the scope of this document. And candidly, I've stopped using Bardeen for the really deep scraping stuff. I only use it for the pretty simple stuff because I haven't needed to leverage it to that extent. Problem, however. So these two scrapers rely on your computer. They rely on your browser information. I have to be actively on my computer to scrape these pages. I literally have to sit and wait for Instant Data Scraper to finish scraping, and I have to have the tab open on Bardeen for it to complete. So oftentimes I'll just have Brave or Arc open on Bardeen on like another screen, and then I'll be using the information that I'm currently using on this Chrome tab in order to get the stuff working, which is very, very long. So what happens if I want more firepower? What happens if the website picks up strange activity, throws up a captcha asking me if I'm a robot, and shuts down the whole operation? Enter Apify. So Apify is a specialist data extraction platform where developers basically created a marketplace of what's called actors, which are web scrapers that pull in information from different web pages, including web pages that don't allow for scraping. So here's a little known fact. If you use a bad scraper on LinkedIn under your browser, you can get shadow banned. LinkedIn tracks movement on pages using cookies and your IP address. So if an IP address is behaving in an unrealistic manner, the user of that cookie and that IP address can get flagged, which can cause a restriction to your account. So if you have other servers at different IP addresses doing the legwork for you, then you can avoid this. If you have multiple computers doing this work, you can scrape extremely quickly as well. So in the same manner that Bardeen would be open on another tab somewhere else, if you had 5 people doing the exact same job at the same time, you would get things done 5 times faster. And this is where Apify actors excel. All you need is to just deposit a URL in the input field and click start run for most of the actors. And to this day, it's the only place where I know that you can scrape active Facebook ads. So if this is your angle, selling talent to e-com brands that are actively running ads who are looking for paid actors to do UGC in-house so that they can 10x the amount of creatives that they can make, you can literally use Apify to do this. I don't know of anything else that can do this right now. I'm sure that there are options, and I'm sure coders are able to use the Facebook ads API in order to get this information, but I don't know if there are any other no-code options to get this information. So those are scrapers and those are secondary platforms. Let's now blitz through the rest of the rich data. So there's intent-based data, which is mostly enterprise data companies, but if you want to leverage it on the cheaper side, you can use news feeds and hiring posts. Number one is Indeed. I'm not a massive fan of Indeed. There's a lot of posts on there, but you only get jobs and descriptions. You barely ever get the direct links to the websites that you can just scrape and turn into contacts. So I don't like Indeed for that. I prefer LinkedIn for that. So if you use LinkedIn Jobs, you can find people that are hiring as a better source of intent data because it's easier to find the rich data associated with a job post. So let's say I'm searching for SDRs up here. Wherever I search will give me all the will give me all of the open jobs that fit the role, which is all of these: SDR, sales reps, SDR, SDR, SDR. You can filter the role by salary, location, and company in this all filters tab, and you can even filter by commitment. So you can see here career growth and learning, diversity, equity, and inclusion, etc. So if your marketing angle has stuff like that, you can actually build that list. For example, if you're selling ED&I dashboards, diversity, equity, and inclusion, to 200 plus employee consultancies trying to meet internal diversity quotas so that they can increase the number of applications for open positions, that would be how you would build that list. So you can see that there's a hiring team in this picture. Number 4, right here, Mr. Sean C. The hiring team is the individual at the company responsible for fielding responses to the job post. This is the rich data that we want, because this is an individual, and this individual is the person in charge of this job post. He is the poster of this job. He is in charge of the individuals that are going. He's in charge of managing the application process, which means if you have a hiring angle, i.e. it's, placing sales reps in large companies in London that are trying to increase the number of calls they book so that they can maximize, so that they can hit quotas for the quarter, whatever it may be. That would be Sean C. right up here is the person that you would find. Not only would you find him, you would find other people with his exact job title, because this is going to link to his profile. He might be the head of HR, he might be the head of products, he might be the head of something else. So all of the hiring managers will give you an idea of all of the job titles that are responsible for, or will be responsible for, the hiring process, if there ever is a need for this individual person being placed. So if you're doing recruitment, you can go after these guys, basically. Literally, it's the perfect list, because they're the party directly in charge of the hiring process. Now, obscure and manual lists. So these are weird, and I've personally used them only a handful of times, but it describes contact information manifested from seemingly nothing. These are your Hail Marys. They're also high IQ plays. But again, you'll be surprised at what we can find, and you'll be surprised at how easily we can get the information we need. People don't know basic cybersecurity, so we can take advantage of that. And this is how. Remember OSINT? OSINT comes back again. So open source spreadsheets. You can see from here, people who give a Google Drive document the share access permissions of anyone on the internet can view, or anyone on the internet can edit, allows the document themselves to get crawled by Google. So with a specific enough search, we can find those documents and use the information to compile lists of domains that we can push through any database that we need. So if you take this AngelList site google.com/spreadsheets, look at all of these pop up. 125 spreadsheets with a bunch of funding roundups, all investors and funds, new VC funds, etc. The same strategy we use to nail our ICP is a strategy that we can use to find our ICP. 125, this is crazy. People need to do better. 125 search results. And inside of all of these spreadsheets, all you are looking for is rich data. Lists of company URLs that you can pull into your own spreadsheet and then enrich using a primary database. This is the key tenet of developing obscure manual lead lists. You want to collect rich data in any way possible, whether it be LinkedIn URLs, company URLs, social media profiles, whatever it may be, preferably these two, LinkedIn URLs and company URLs. Company URLs is probably number one. They can be turned into contact information really easily. And this is especially important when looking at review platforms. So I'm going to speed through this as well. Trustpilot, G2, Capterra, these are common review platforms. And if we look at Trustpilot, for example, this is a list of estate agents, all these guys here, and it's a table. It's a pagination table, because you can see 1 to 20 of 934 results. So it's showing 20. There's 934, which means at the bottom there's going to be a next page button. And what you can do is just scrape this entire thing. And you can see that there's the little website, phone number, and email button there, which if you click into, gives you the contact information that you would need. So you've got the address, you've got the company URL, which is your rich data, you've got a phone number, and you've got a info app. So we want to use the URL here To not get inquiries at purplebricks.com, we want to get John at purplebricks.com, who's the owner, or Rachel at purplebricks.co.uk, who is the COO, whoever it may be, right? And we've already covered this before. If you want to click inside of something and grab the information from it, you need to use Bardeen to get that information out. G2, same again. It's there's a few smoke screens, but sometimes you'll see try for free and see some other things here. Those are where the actual URLs are held. And Capterra sometimes has view website, sometimes has view profile. So you can find some company websites there. This isn't the best one because only really obvious and really big platforms are going to be shown on Capterra with visit website there. So that's those guys. Then you have blogs and listicles. So if you search top 100s, you could search, Forbes 30 under 30. You could search Inc. 5000 list. You could search a ton of other things, and then you can be given listicles that give you company URLs that you can turn into small campaigns, which are really specific. And then Wikipedia. Wikipedia is also another one. You can look for category searches, and that can help you get there as well. And then there's freelancer platforms like Fiverr and Upwork, which can basically get you everything that we've spoken about. You don't even need to find rich data. You can ask for just verified contacts, because there are a ton of lead generation and list building people inside of Upwork who are there and ready and able to help you get a list of data, especially if that list of data is hard to reach. So if you want to find a very specific group of people that you've not been able to find so far, get these freelancers to try, and they'll surprise you with how good they are. They're also really good because sometimes they come with their own data and they come with their own platforms. So if you want lookalike data, you can go after these guys too. So let me explain lookalike data. Oof. Almost done. Lookalike data is an absolute cheat code. When reaching out to companies that aren't easily found, if you can get the company URLs of 2 or 3 of them, plug them into a lookalike platform, and it will spit out a few thousand lookalikes, all categorized in a similar way to your primary databases. And the top tier solution for this, because I know that one of the primary databases, ListKit, has this function, the top tier solution is Ocean. Ocean is creme de la creme. It's an enterprise software that allows you to leverage lookalike search, and it basically just goes around crawling company pages and then categorizing the HTML on the page to give you a secondary data platform grouped in industries even more accurately than Apollo is. So when you give it a list of URLs, it will spit out about 10,000 similar URLs, giving you almost an exact ICP. So if you've been unsuccessful building lists of companies for your angle, then Ocean will likely pull through. It's game changer. We had access to it for 2022 to 2023. We had access to it, and I can't tell you how easy it was to just do a lot of outreach. And the good thing about Ocean right now, hopefully this stays the same, but they've basically put their lookalike search front and center on the front of their page so that you can see all of the information for all of the people that you would decide that you're looking for. So it'll just give you like a list of 50 and say, use this free trial in order to get 5,000. So you'll see how powerful it is if you go into each individual one and see how similar they are. All right, in summary, these are the main places to find business info on company websites. We've gone through this at the start. I'm not going to do it again, but this covers this whole bracket here. So now what you need to do is take the rich data that you've found using these methods and then turn them into contacts. You'll have a few thousand domains in the company's list, and all you need to do is pull your contacts. And in order to do that, you just have to filter by location, job title, company size, whatever your ICP is asking for. And there you have it, a complete list. All you need to do is export it and you'll have leads. You kind of have leads because you need to process that data, because half of this data is actually bad. So here's like a step 2B/step 3. This is email verification. We've gone and we've taken all this information. We're in the primary lead database and we've just taken it now. We now need to validate it and then do the rest of these as well. Your data needs to spring clean. You have a list of exported leads and they're all on target. The problem is they aren't verified. The difference between exported contacts and verified contacts is that the contact information has been confirmed as existing. It is alive. It is live data. It is valid. A lot of primary databases include contact information that currently isn't up to date, which is called database decay. It's the natural loss in data quality over time. People, leave their jobs. They retire, they get fired, companies rebrand, companies get acquired, companies shut down. All of these things are cause for change in email addresses, but they aren't always reflected in primary databases. There isn't a single campaign I've done, which is over 5 or 10,000 contacts in size, where I haven't had a response saying so and so no longer works for this company. So and so company has shut down its doors. All of that's there. So out of my 207,000 contacts saved on this Apollo account that I own, 24,000 people's contact information has changed. That's over 10%. And it's actually way more than this in reality. So you need to verify your leads. You simply have to. The list that you pull needs to go through an email validation process. So what I'm going to talk about now is Never Bounce. It's one of the most expensive, but one of the most accurate email cleaning tools on the market. And there's about 20 or 30 of these. Never Bounce, Million Verifier is another one. Debounce is another one. Those are the three that we kind of hear the most. Previous ones like Volar, Norbert used to be used, but they're not as accurate. They're cheap, but they're cheap for a reason. So these basically check the MX and SMTP records attached to the email and domain to determine if a response comes back. So an MX record is just like a verification record, and an SMTP record basically is just one part of the reply and receiving protocols. So you plug your exported contacts into Never Bounce so that you can find the valid contacts. And you can see that here, there's a few different results. Valid, accept all, unknown, and invalid. And honestly, this is kind of how most of your searches will go. So if you pull a list from Apollo, which is, in this case, probably about 3,000 or 4,000 people strong, you're going to get around 50% that are straight up valid, as in these are the ones you can immediately start sending emails to. But, and this is a big but, accept all, unknown, and invalid, you cannot at all, but there is always a way around reducing the amount of waste that has come from your efforts. So this is how to recover 50% of your lead list. Accept alls, unknowns, and invalid emails, which are the other 50% of the lead list that aren't valid, they can't be used in our campaigns. Invalid emails are just bad emails. They come back as invalid from the email verification tool because they just don't exist. If you send emails to these, they will bounce, and bounces can affect your deliverability, because if you send an email to an email that no longer exists and you do that on a regular basis, then the behavior of the email itself indicates that you are sending to people that you should not be sending to. These people don't exist anymore. Why are you sending these emails out? So Google, Outlook, etc. will say, this is a spammer. We are going to remove this person from all primary inboxes moving forward. We're going to nerf the deliverability on this account. Some mail servers are configured to accept any and every email sent to the domain, regardless of whether or not the email exists. These are accept all and unknown emails. They're basically wildcards. And Never Bounce and most other email verification tools can't accurately verify the accept alls and the unknowns. So without a valid email from these, we've effectively lost 50% of our total email list. So the way to get these back is to search high and low for the valid email. And this is where waterfall enrichment comes into play, which is this part here. So the idea of enrichment is, it's like adding salt, adding spice, adding flavor. You enrich things that way. If you're going to do so in the idea of databases, it's adding extra data points to the data that you have. Waterfall enrichment in the email validation process is what happens when you thread together multiple primary lead databases in an attempt to find the valid email. You basically daisy chain the primary lead databases together, looking for known information about the contact, i.e. the company LinkedIn, the person's LinkedIn and like their first name and last name, to find or guess the valid contact information. So here's kind of like a broad example of how that works. Let's say I use Apollo to find leads. John Davies from Capricorn Data. Let's say this is the person that I've got the name, I've got the LinkedIn URL, and I've got the company name. I have his LinkedIn profile, his email, a bunch of other data. If john@capricorndata.com comes back as invalid and never bounce, I can push him through a waterfall enrichment software to find the email address in Drop Contact, which is another primary database. So we started in Apollo, we're now in Drop Contact. Drop Contact's version, john.davis@capricorndata.com. Maybe if that comes back as valid, then we have it. If it comes back as invalid, then the waterfall will try the next one down, i.e. Seamless. If Seamless comes back as invalid, it will try Caspar. Then it will try Hunter. Then it will try People Data Labs. Then it will try so on and so on and so forth, which increases cold email coverage by another 20 to 30%. The best tool to do this is Clay. Clay.com. Clay is beautiful. It is the child prodigy of the lead generation world. It is by far the most effective prospecting tool on the market, bar none. It's a simple spreadsheet style software which is designed to build and enrich lead lists. And we'll discuss how to use Clay better later on when we talk about data-driven personalization, because Clay is basically foundational in that. The moment an email comes back as a catch-all or an invalid, if we look at how waterfall enrichment works in Clay, the waterfall begins. Clay will search for a work email in a different primary lead database here, and then attempt to validate it here. If that doesn't work, another software is attempted here, and the cycle continues because it tries to validate, and it's not there, it tries again and tries to validate it. And you can see that we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Not only do we have those 13, we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more. So we just gained another 9 on top of our 13. We almost doubled our list here. So with this, we now have almost all the emails we can get. So here's how we're looking. We had a bunch of valids now. We have quite a few invalids. And we still have a few acceptals, a few of them. We have valids, and we have way more thanks to the waterfall enrichment. But the emails we're unable to find can actually be removed because we know for sure that the email doesn't exist elsewhere. We've tried 7 or 8 different places. Every single email has come back as invalid. It's safe to say that they're gone. We can delete the email, and if we want to just use LinkedIn for these guys or other means, then we can do so. But we know that we can't email them, so we remove them. And then there's one last part of the data mining equation that we can't forget, which is dealing with these acceptals, and that is manual verification, which is the catch-all verification. So this is the final step. It can be omitted if you want to, depending on how big your list is. If you have a really small list, I wouldn't omit it at all. If you want to squeeze all of the juice out of your lead list, the last thing you can try is to validate your catch-all emails. Remember that catch-alls are acceptals, so they're inboxes that are configured to accept any and every email sent to the domain, regardless of whether or not the email actually exists. Accepting the email is determined by calling a particular type of request. If that type of request isn't valid, then there may be other types of requests we can utilize. You know what the best type of request is? Sending an actual email. Maybe that would give us exactly what we would need. And that's what catch-all validators actually do. They send blank email messages to catch-all emails to see if the email is actually there. It's the difference between peeking into your child's room to see if they're asleep and pulling the duvet back to see if the kid's actually in bed. And it's not just a pile of clothes under the sheet because they left the house in the middle of the night, like these unruly kids do. So catch-all validators are the equivalent of basically pulling the duvet back. It's making for certain, for sure, that the acceptals that we've received are actually emails that exist. So the best thing on the market right now for this is Scrubby. It's one of the only tools that validates catch-all emails at the moment. More are emerging over time, but Scrubby was first to the pack, and it is very good at what it does. Now, because blank emails are sent to these catch-all addresses, they're manually validated one by one, which means your list will take some time to complete. It'll take around 24 hours. And in doing so, you end up with the largest lead list you could possibly create. And that gives you everything that you would need. You now have a fully cleaned email list. You only have valids. Because the ones that I couldn't find, you bin. And the ones that I could find, you add to your valids. And the invalids are already gone. So you only have valids now. Every email in your sheet is valid, and you can now send these emails out. We have the data. The data is verified. But is it good data? What do we mean by good right now? Because we've said this a couple of times. Good refers to the goal of prospecting, which is finding the people who care the most about what you have to offer. If you can capture attention, you can capture lead flow, and your data must enable that as best as possible. We want to say the right thing to the right people at scale. And this is where personalization comes into play. So, final step, data-driven personalization. Now we're talking about this part here. We have our incomplete list of leads, as in they're all clean, and if we wanted to do a very big spray and pray campaign, we very well could. If we want to get really specific, here's where the personalization aspect comes into play. So, historically, cold emails have sucked. You'll struggle to find a single inbox without a message in the spam folder that has terrible formatting, useless messaging, and multiple fishy links in them. We know we need to avoid that. We've already done the inversion exercise. We want to craft useful messages to the right people and at the same time speak to tens of thousands of people so that we can generate tons of interest and fill out our sales team's calendars with qualified sales calls. But how do we generate that quality of output at scale without making the same mistakes that our friendly neighborhood spammers have made? This is where data-driven personalization comes into play. Data-driven personalization. So data-driven is taking the right inferences from the information that we have available. It's about using data to answer the question, why me? Is in why are you contacting me and why are you contacting me now? Personalization is saying the right thing to the right person at the right time. And in order to produce data-driven personalization, we need to know what we're going to say, then transform our data so that we can say what we want to at scale without sounding like a robot or looking like we've sent an email blast. We essentially want to have 100,000 one-to-one conversations. And here's how. Again, if you take nothing from this, the angle is still king. The one thing we can use to help us tie everything together from the exported lead list to the copy that we will write is the angle. The angle is both the hypothesis we're testing and the reason why we've created the lead list in the first place. It's the single guiding light that can take us through all of the work that is currently being done. And you can see here, it's the source of truth. These are the tests that you're doing. The copy is a reflection of the angle. And the lead list is what we've pulled in order to make the copy and the angle work. We'll talk about copy on another day, but we'll use an example angle and an example copy to explain how to incorporate data-driven personalization. So here's a basic angle targeting e-commerce stores. Selling influencer marketing to e-commerce brands with an active Instagram account who are looking to increase their engagement so that they can double their sales. You're an influencer marketing agency. You want to get in contact with e-com brands, and you want to get in contact with e-com brands that care about social media. This is the angle. We are going to take this angle and we're going to run through the whole process. We're going to search for e-commerce companies with Instagram accounts on store leads. We're going to pull the list of companies, put the list of companies into Apollo, filter the search so that the correct job titles show up. And then we're going to pull the list of contacts from Apollo and clean them using Never Bounce. This is going to give us our incomplete list of leads, which we have used to get verified e-com brands. So let's look at the copy. Hey, first name, came across company names with latest post on Instagram, IG handle, and decided to reach out. If we could double your sales by sending your category products to paid actors who will create unboxing videos that you can use as ad creators, would that be worth a 10-minute conversation? Many thanks, name. That's the whole email. Now, pay special attention to the merge fields we've used. First name, company name, IG handle, and category. So first name and company name come with basically every single lead list that you pull from a primary database. But Instagram handle and category does not exist. You have to find the information elsewhere. But remember, we pulled a list from store leads, and store leads comes with Instagram URLs and categories. So we just need to put them into our current lead list and make it sound like we are speaking to an individual and we're not speaking as robots. So how do we do that? We use something that a lot of people do not know how to use, but have probably learned how to use when they're 14 or 15 years old in IT class. So here's where things get fiddly. We've written an example email that we want to send to a list of e-com store owners that post on Instagram who want to use content to increase sales. That's the angle. So we pulled the list, but because we pulled from store leads and we pulled from Apollo, we don't have one lead sheet, we have two. We have a list of verified contacts from Apollo and Never Bounce with job title, company LinkedIn URL, and seniority, function, headcount, all of that good stuff. But we also have a list of company data from store leads, which is, if you'd seen beforehand, how many SKUs, how many products are on sale, the estimated monthly sales, the estimated web traffic, the technographics, i.e. do they have Klaviyo and Hyros and all these other things added under the F12 element of their page, a bunch of other information that Apollo simply just does not have. In order to get the company data we want into our list of verified contacts, we need to manipulate the sheets. And we do this by using a well-known yet easily forgotten spreadsheet function, one that accountants love, that marketers don't even know exists, which is taking this information from here, sticking it into the intermediary sheet, I can't talk, and then comparing that with our incomplete list of leads using index match. Index and match are two Excel/Google Sheets formulae that you can stick together to perform very intricate lookup processes. And I'm not going to go too in depth in how to use index match, but I'm going to give you the formula anyways that you would probably use and just break it down. So sheet 1 is this here, lead list. Lead list is sheet 1. Store leads is sheet 2. So you can see, like I said, first name, last name, LinkedIn, company, website, city, state, country, job title, seniority, company, LinkedIn. I've hidden the email just for GDPR reasons, etc. And then store leads has the domain, categories, IG handle, LinkedIn handle, merchant name, product sold, TikTok URLs, and a bunch of other things. We want to take the IG handle and the categories and stick them in this spot right here. So we highlight sheet 2's contents and then find an identical cell in sheet 1 that is also in sheet 2 so that we can find the row that includes the information that we need. So this is how it kind of works. So in the empty red column that we looked at beforehand, this one here, this is the formula that goes into the sheet. It's index, store leads, the whole store lead sheet. So this is the orange block. Index, orange block, match E2, which is the company URL in here. E2 would be this here, website. And then we match it with the company URL column in the store lead sheet, which is this, the A column. And then we specify that the sheet isn't ordered alphabetically, so we keep it at 0. And then we specify that we want column 3, which is the IG handle, which is column C. In doing so, we get we basically get the IG handle for every single company name that was found in both. So if the store leads information has the IG handle, that gets transplanted into the empty column on the side of the lead list, and that is how we get the information that we need. So where we spoke about the copy being this, IG handle being inside of the copy, this is how you put IG handle into the copy. And obviously the IG handle is just the Instagram URL after, and everything after the first slash. So instagram.com/blank. That is the handle. So you can just use that. Now, regarding index match, it will only match if the formula finds a direct match. So if for whatever reason there's a small difference, i.e. you've got www.company.com instead of company.com, then the index match will miss. It will just miss it. So you want to do this over multiple matching columns, like the company name, a version of the URL which has www, a version of the URL which has HTTP, the LinkedIn URL for the company, and even to alternate forms of the website, because sometimes these company.com, if you follow company.com, it will take you to a redirect, and that redirect is found inside of the store leads information. And that might be what Apollo is using in order to pull the list of leads. So you basically want to go and index match across a bunch of these over and over and over again until you find all the data that you need. And with that, we're able to pull in the IG handle and the category. And now we can accomplish our email copy. Nearly. There's one last thing that we need to do, and it's called pruning. So, home stretch. We have all of the information that we need. We've got validated emails from multiple sources. We have a lead list augmented with company level information, and we even have extra personalization. We now need to prune 2 columns, company names and categories. So, what is pruning? Pruning is this stuff right here. All of this, sheets functions, GPT, Clay, we're going to use all of this in order to prune our sheet. Pruning is just the avoidance of silly mistakes. Because the unfortunate reality of most primary lead databases is that company names look funky. They look messy. Look at this, the hairy pill, A and then the R. You've got these here. You got this. You got this with the uneven. It's just uneven. It's all just a mess. So there are weird arrows and symbols inside of a lot of company names. And as a background, it's due to two things usually. It's due to unsupported emojis. So this little box here, all of my Android users will know that sometimes if you're looking at someone who's rocking an iPhone who is putting an emoji that you can't read and Androids don't have, it will come up with just this box. Unsupported emojis pop up as box symbols inside of CSVs as well. If a company name has said symbol in its LinkedIn company information, then the chances are when it's pulled into your lead list, it's removed and replaced with the boxes. And the CSV conversion itself sometimes can manipulate how certain symbols look. So downloading a list from a database can sometimes create these bits of jargon from the moment that the download happens. But either way, you have some really annoying artifacts that you need to get rid of. The reason why you actually do need to get rid of these funky company name issues is that they are actually deliverability issues waiting to happen. There is someone in the lead generation space that has a rocket emoji next to his name on LinkedIn. So whenever anybody scrapes his name on LinkedIn, he immediately ignores any email that includes the rocket symbol. It's a filter set up on his inbox, and he will glance through his LinkedIn connections and just remove the ones that have a rocket there. So not only are you getting ignored, but you might also get put into spam by people like this. And people are getting more savvy and more attentive to this stuff as well. So if you were to send the email that we mentioned above, if we could give you paid actors, if we could give company name paid actors, would this be worth a 10-minute conversation? And you're sending it to the hairy pill, and if it says if we could get the hairy pill AR paid actors, you'd be marked as spam because the symbols themselves highlight to the reader that you scraped their information and you're possibly a bot looking for trouble in their inbox. Spam flag can hurt deliverability in the same way that a missed payment hurts your credit score. The more you get, the worse it gets. The more you miss it, the worse things are. You now run into issues where you're monitoring inbox placement, turning down sending volumes, swapping out inboxes, and just doing all of the deliverability malarkey because you didn't make one small fix to your campaigns. Bad company data can go out, you get marked as spam, your email stop landing in the inbox, and now you have to get new inboxes and the process just repeats. So you just have to avoid it. Prevention is way better than cure. The same tools that gave us our ICP details are also the same tools we'll use to clean these. GPT for Sheets. So this little, you can see this here, right? What's happening right now, and I'll wait for it to come back and start again, is there's a GPT function being put in. This GPT function is putting in a prompt which reads the company name and asks it to turn it into a more reasonable and conversational company name. And then what it's doing is it's finding from the company name what a better version of that company name would sound like if you were to speak of it in a conversation. So you can see Stella Snacks stayed the same. Freezing Point became proper case. And it just works in that way. So basically, when you want to clean company names beforehand, you'd have to go through each individual row and make it look nice, or you'd have to make a really, really complicated Google formula, which can sometimes mess you around when there are abbreviations and other things inside of the list. But now, slap one formula in the next column over, feed it a prompt, and let it get to work, and AI will just do that job for you. And this is the prompt that I am using up here. And you can use this on your list of company names. So just open up another column and just say equals GPT, turn this company name into a more readable and conversational format, remove all symbols or funny characters, only display the changed company name, not the before and after. Because sometimes it will say, yeah, it's done it here. If you look at 58 facets, I think it's called, it shows you a before and after. You can see an arrow. You can see an arrow right here. And it's just giving you something it's giving you what you want, but it's basically giving you the arrow there. So you just don't want to use that. Now, The only thing about this is that you need the temperature to be 0, because temperature basically keeps GPT in stricter guidelines. It stops it from getting too adventurous, and it stops it from innovating on top of what it normally does, because usually GPT is designed in order to come out with different things every time. If you wanted to come out with the same thing every time and you want to penalize creativity, you would change the temperature. So that's what that means. It's not 100%. And if you have a list smaller than a few thousand contacts, you should actually spot check these outputs. But at scale, this is the quickest way to prune your contacts. One thing that I also like to do as well is, after I've done this, in the next column over, I will, not even in the next column over, I will organize the sheet by character length. So in the next column over, I would have length equals len in colon whatever the previous column is. Drag it all the way down, order by size, and all of the ones which are the company names, which are, above 30 something characters, I'll look at all of them. Basically, I'll just glance through all of them, because any errors that usually occur by making things longer than they need to be. Sometimes GPT will come back saying, the right way of saying this company name is company name. I don't need the right way of saying this company name is blank, because that's even worse than having all of those symbols inside of the copy. Because then my copy will say, hey, first name, if we could get the name of this company is blank to increase their sales through paid actors. No, absolutely not. So you just don't want any of that. So GPT can prune basically anything that you would need. The same way that I'm using it here inside of the company name list, you can also use it on category. So category, if we go all the way back, you'll be able to see that inside of here, you've got home and garden / kitchen and dining / cookware and dining wear / food and drink. GPT can help you just give you back food and drink. It can help give you back face and body care. And you can even ask it to put it in lowercase, so that you can pretty much have a conversational version of the category. Because if I want to say, we can help your category brand get XYZ, we can help your hair and beauty brand get X, Y, and Z. If I put hair and beauty in proper case with capital H and capital B, it doesn't look right inside of the email. GPT can help you out with that too. Product name can also do that. And sometimes first name, like I've said, can also be pruned in this same manner. So I'm going to glide through Spintax as well. You can sometimes use Spintax inside of the Google Sheet that you are pruning. Other times you would use it inside of the email sending provider that you have, because they all support this. But it's just a way of randomizing certain strings. If you type this into your sending provider, you'll randomly select for one of the following. So Tim will either get hello Tim, hi Tim, or hey Tim, and it's completely random. This variation helps remove the repetition that is flagged by Google, Outlook, and other emails, so that you don't get marked as spam, or you don't get blocked by Google before the email even goes out. So the copy itself isn't always smart to randomize, but what goes around the copy can be. So this part here, hello, hi, and hey, many thanks, best wishes, regards, the sign off. Some people have even put quotes at the bottom of their signature, and they use Spintax in order to get the quotes to look nice as well. But we can basically accomplish randomization inside of Sheets by using a VLOOKUP function and a separate tab with greetings, sign-offs, quotes, compliments, all that good stuff, which rotates between each individual row. So that's Spintax. Not amazingly important. Even at this stage, I think it's not as effective as it used to be, but it's still there nonetheless and should be used. Everything that I have said about the GPT for Sheets, pruning, everything in general, personalization on top of that can be done in Clay as well. Clay comes with its own GPT, which Clay's spreadsheet style is basically every single column is a software for all intents and purposes. So you could put name, LinkedIn URL, company URL, job title, and then any other column that you want could be a software and the actions of that software just pulled in from their API. And because of that, it is incredible and incredibly powerful. So you can put a chat GPT as a column to do all of these things. On top of that, you can also use something called Clayagent. Clayagent visits websites and pulls information from the web copy itself. You literally have no idea how powerful this is. This is why I call it the golden child. You can visit a website and determine if it's B2B or B2C. You can determine if the company has a case study that you can reference in your emails. You can determine if a company is a SaaS with an enterprise plan. You can determine what the price is without even going into the website and looking yourself. You can find Google partner and Klaviyo partner status on an agency's website and use that in your copy. You can then give it instructions as to how you want the information to be formatted. So it could be just simple yes and no. And then if yes, it creates this line. If no, it creates this line, because there's also formulae which you can create from as new columns based on what different software is giving you as well. Which is how that's how the waterfall works as well, because it spits out 4 or 5 different softwares, and after each software is validation, and the software next to it only gets triggered if the validation comes back as no result or invalid or catch-all. It's GPT with a web scraper combined. There's unlimited specificity there, and the possibilities are literally endless. And the best thing is you can imbue your lead lists with all of this well-researched information without paying for Clay. It's powered by GPT, so if you have a paid OpenAI account, you can actually link it to Clay and use your account instead of Clay credits. So you can just say, all right, here's my GPT account, bang, let me just give it this mission. And you can see right here, visit the website of this company, then navigate to their pricing page, find the price of their most expensive plan and what is unique about it compared to their free plan. And it will just spit it out. It will just scrape the HTML on the page, use AI to find out what that information is, and then AI will again give you what you need in the format that you need it. So you don't even need to pay for Clay in order to make use of this, which is why it's so good. All right, home stretch. Let's revisit everything. So we have our angle, we have our copy, we pulled a lead list from store leads, we took the companies and turned them into contacts, we cleaned the emails using Neverbounce, we found the missing emails in Clay, we validated the catch-alls, we cleaned the company names using Clay and GPT for Sheets, we added spin tags using Clay. We've done everything. We have a complete lead list. This whole thing is done. Everything here is done. So to end things off, to summarize, all you need to do is the following. Identify your ideal client, your ideal target market. Find your ICP's contact information by crafting your angle and manipulating databases. Clean your data so that you have a pure list of ideal prospects, and personalize your messaging. And with that, you'll have a massive contact list full of ideal prospects eager to buy your product or service. And you'll be able to say the right stuff. So now that you know how to build lists for yourself, I'm going to tell you exactly how to use this information to book calls and generate sales on autopilot. The most critical point to keep in mind throughout this whole list building process is that the angle is king. Again, the angle. The angle forms the blueprint which anchors both the copy and the list. If you do not have an angle, you waste hours pushing buttons on filters. Well, that should not be there. So, using angles correctly is what has helped us generate 33 qualified calls in 60 days, book 41 calls in a month for ourselves, book 50 plus calls and numerous sales for Genrev, and book 40 plus calls for Invisible PPC, as well as help us coach over 100 plus businesses on how to do the same. So, and this is the whole point. If you can send the right message to the right people at scale, you will generate interest that far exceeds anything that you've imagined. So now you may be wondering, I now know how to build a lead list full of ideal contacts. I can do it. I have everything that I need now. But how do I know if my service or product can be sold over cold email? How do I write the email copy that I'm going to send to these contacts? How do I send these emails at scale? How do I respond to these email replies? How do I turn those replies into calls? And how do I increase my conversion rate on calls that these emails will generate? You can find all of the answers to this information online, but the issue with random YouTube and blog searches is the signal to noise ratio of open source knowledge. If 5% of what you hear from a lot of these gurus and these other YouTubers is signal, i.e. it's directly useful to you, then you have to sift through lots of noise in order to find out what will work for your business. Because 95% of the information simply won't work for you, and you won't know any better. You'll spend egregious amounts of time and money on failed tests, which just continues the cycle that's been going on for you. The easiest way to understand how you should write copy, send emails, book calls, and close is to have someone deliver this in-house so you know how the system operates for your business. So if you're still with me, I'm going to make you an offer that is considerably faster and cheaper than me sitting and teaching you this. It's called the Act on Growth Insight approach. It's not a paid community that only gives you broad insights compiled from different gurus. It's not a set of boilerplate systems that we put into your business and just leave for you to figure out either. It's an end-to-end acquisition system that we run for you until it works, which we hand over once it's proven for your business model. And if that's all you need to hear, book a call. There'll be a link below this video. Book a call with us by clicking this link. And if you want to learn more, keep reading. So this is what we do. This is how our process works. It's broken down into 3 steps. The first thing we do is a positioning workshop. So most people who historically rely on referrals and inbound for business sell their services like a shopping list, which doesn't work with outbound because there's no prior trust or rapport. People won't just exclusively pick the things that they want from your list because they're not even sold on using you for the service that you provide in the first place. So we position your offer for cold traffic by defining a set of angles and value propositions, because strangers only buy from strangers based on the quality of the deal that is presented to them. This way, you get a clear understanding of your ideal client profile and you know which aspects of your product or service are most intriguing to them, because it's all about attention. Then, after highlighting your ideal clients, state 1, we then run our cold outreach process from A to Z, and that includes everything: email infrastructure, list building, copywriting, response handling, booking calls. This is because you need multiple iterations across numerous angles to find the angle with the best ratio of contact to lead. By doing this, you have a scalable process that converts cold traffic into calls, meaning you no longer have to worry about an empty calendar again. And then we build out an entire sales infrastructure to help convert the calls into sales. We give you 20 plus hours of our own in-house sales training done by my co-founder, David, who's the sales guy, training that has actually managed to help AEs hit 300% of their sales quota at their role, help a closer generate $250,000 in cash collected in 5 weeks for a B2B coaching program, and take a team of SDRs from 4 calls a month to 70 calls a month. 70 calls a month in 30 days. We also build out a full CRM with calling functions and nurture sequences, because leads are worthless if they don't show up and they're wasted if they don't close. This means that your salespeople are always getting on calls, and those calls eventually convert because closed lost contacts re-enter the pipeline down the line, and your salespeople get a second chance to seal the deal. We do it all for you for 90 days, and if you don't make an ROI, you get a full refund. Best case scenario, you crack the code of cold outreach and you can scale to the moon. Worst case scenario, you get your money back. So if you're even a little bit interested, book a call by following the link. We'll discuss the issues that you're having across your entire cold outreach funnel, from offer to email to call closed. Now, small caveat. Because we're dealing with cold email here and cold outreach, we only work with B2B business owners. And we also only work with companies that have generated results for their clients. So if you're still waiting on your first client, or you haven't delivered value in this particular business or this particular service that you are running, then please don't book a call. If not, then this is directly applicable to you. And this is specifically for you if you're in one of 2 camps. If you're a first timer, you're a B2B business owner that has never tried cold outreach before. You've got successful case studies, but you've lived on referrals and word of mouth and are looking to take growth into your own hands. Or maybe you're tried and tested. You're a B2B business owner that has tried cold outreach, but a combination of poor reply rates and unqualified calls have left you disheartened. So you've turned off your campaigns and you're looking for different solutions. If you sit in either of these camps, then 100% book a call. There's no risk to booking, as we don't sell to everyone who gets on our calls anyways. So if you're on the fence, not sure if you're qualified, or not sure if it's the right time, book in some time anyways, and we can still discuss your cold outreach funnel in full detail.